We are live.
Hey, Steve.
Rob, what's your go-to at McDonald's? What are you a value meal guy? What's your go-to when you go there?
I used to get two cheeseburgers,
Ah, that's my
but we're
go-to, the
coming
two
up.
cheeseburger meal.
Well, I think they ruled out that meal, and so then I was getting two cheeseburgers anyway. And then somebody said, "Well, if you want to get in bikini, we're approaching bikini season, and so you need to cut back on the starches. So I just go with a double cheeseburger, less
Less.
bun.
Less
Mm,
So the double
carbs.
double cheeseburger, yep, and medium fries and a large Diet Coke light on the ice. And it's interesting because when you always order the same thing, I feel like I'm 80 years old, but when you always order the same thing, then you can compare prices. Like
right.
just now, it was $10.81. Uh, I ordered a couple weeks ago when I was on the road, and it was like $11.20. So
Hmm.
it's like, what's going on here?
Well, last
Nice.
time you and I split a burger, my friend, I don't know if you recall, but we were in Las Vegas at
It was
Gordon
like
Ramsay.
$80.
$150. We had burgers, fries, and a drink. It was $150.
The Kobe beef.
Nope.
That
Just
was crazy. That's right, Steve. You owe me dinner somewhere
Yeah, is that
sometime.
what happened?
Anyway.
and
Oh, don't pretend you're conveniently forgetting about that.
Wait, I got my arms right here. Here, I'll get the check for
the
you.
alligator arms. Steve, where have your travels taken you recently? Taking you soon? Anywhere good?
I, I would say it, but you're going to get a little jealous. I'm going to Pittsburgh next week.
Okay, well, that's good Midwestern town. Good
Well, I
Midwest.
mean, you're a Cleveland guy. You got that.
I do like Pittsburgh. I hate the Steelers, but I like the city of Pittsburgh. It's less than 2 hours for me, so we'll
And
go.
Pittsburgh,
Steve,
Baltimore, and Cleveland are the same city as far as I'm concerned. And I'm from Baltimore. So when I go to all three, I'm like, I feel at home any of those three cities.
get the sandwich at
Primani Brothers, totally overrated. They throw fries on the sandwich. It's overrated.
They do it here too. It's at a place called Panini's, but yeah, there are some similarities, for sure. The people, the heritage of the towns, for sure. So.
Based on water, all that. You got your Shador Sanders card yet? Your rookie card?
I've got a few Shadur cards, from when he was at Colorado. But yeah, that's all coming to Cleveland, the Sanders brigade. So just when the Browns couldn't get any more dysfunctional.
What a setup.
Isn't she a Hispanic singer?
That's
Shadur
Who
Shakira.
Sanders,
Shakira, her hips don't
here,
lie.
close. Yeah,
who's
she
Oh, all right, never
wait.
mind.
But
She could be brought in by the Browns to play quarterback potentially. You never know. So, but
you said dysfunctional. I think that's the cue for to talk about the business today. Isn't that where we're going?
it's where we've been going, yeah. And well, let's good segue. Let's go ahead and get into it. This is the big picture, presented and sponsored by our friends at Depth, the best in the biz for over 2 decades for having your story told in the mortgage industry, strategic communication, brand management, public relations. They are great, and you can check them out at depthpr.com. My name is Rich Swerbinsky with Onward and Upward Consulting. And as always, join my esteemed colleague and co host, Rob Krisman, who was tearing up some McDonald's pre show. And that
No, I
value.
didn't have a chance. I have a untouched burger.
Okay, this is where, we got to wind Steve up, get him going, give you 5, 6 minutes to whiff all that down. But and by the way, that value meal in the Midwest here, you could still get that two cheeseburger value meal for it. It still has an 8 handle. Hopefully the mortgage rates don't have an eight
Really?
handle soon, but the two cheeseburger meal still with an 8 handle to bring it to the
You're
capital.
closer to the beef, apparently.
And this week, very, very pleased to be joined again here on the big picture by our good friend, national speaker. How do you define yourself, Steve? I guess, when somebody asks, like, what do you do? How do you answer that? Steve Richman, by the way. Steve Richman. Sorry, Steve.
I'm a professional speaker.
Professional
That's
speaker.
literally how I introduce
Yeah, that's
myself.
probably the
Yep.
right way to answer it. So
Yep.
there you go. All right. Well, good stuff. And Rob, once again, the housing market news gods have blessed us once again. Uh, just when you think that, like, the stories can't get any any better, this week we've got Bill Pulte and putting the obese GSEs on the treadmill, calling out FICO. And if that isn't enough for you, last night, yeah, on Truth Social, President Trump finally drops the GSE privatization bomb months before I was expecting it. But goes out on Truth Social and basically says, like, hey, we're seriously considering this. I'm meeting with my cabinet. We're gonna have a decision soon. These companies are spawning off so much cash. It seems like the time is right. And I do also want to get your thoughts, Rob, on MBA secondary. So I throw a lot of tantalizing topics to you here, and had to have you get us started this week.
So, so I saw Bill Pulte, who, and I was writing tomorrow's opening paragraph this morning before the show, and some people like Bill Pulte, and some people think he's, a 45-year-old frat boy gone awry. And it was funny. I was texting with a well-known MBA member this morning, and he or she was saying that I can't believe it. Bill Pulte, one day is literally saying privatization is not high on the priority list.
Right.
Literally within 24, 48 hours, Trump is out. I'm sorry, President Trump is out there saying, well, and he brings it up. And it's like, really? Does the right hand know what the left hand is doing? Is this just to shoot first and ask questions later, or to, what is the point of really stirring up the markets? Because it's not, I think, I know the NBA was full of optimism, and I would tell Bill Pulte this to his face. The NBA was full of optimism when he was nominated. I don't even know if he's been formally sworn in yet, but uh,
He did make it through all that. I do
he
remember
did.
that.
Okay,
Yeah.
great, great. Probably talks a good game,
Mhm.
but it's like, all right, are you doing this just to shake things up? Because you really, if you think about it, you're dealing with hundreds of millions of people you're dealing with their homes. And to subject that to some of the volatility that we've seen, for example, in the tariff situation, where one day it's on, one day it's off, one day it's higher, one day it's lower, that volatility impacts the market. And for Donald Trump to say, okay, we're talking about privatization. Well, if that's handled incorrectly, it can shoot rates up, 0.5 to 1%. And do we really want mortgage rates in the 8% because we yank away the government guarantee too soon, or before the market is ready? And so the NBA had thought that with Bill Pulte coming in and giving his housing family background, that he would understand these concepts. Like, you don't want to roil the market, ROIL. You don't want to roil the market, because you're dealing with families and you're dealing with housing and homes. But that apparently has gone out the door with Donald Trump's Midnight X, uh, or whatever, truth media, social media, whatever. And so the market is left, and the housing market and the residential finance industry is left wondering, what's next? What's gonna come out? And it was interesting because I was in a meeting at the secondary. It wasn't exactly a top secret meeting, but it was a meeting of some powerful folks. And they were saying that Fannie Mae and Freddie Mac can be privatized. There's a way to do it without congressional approval. Well, I would guess that Congress would kind of do anything that President Trump would like at this point. But the fact that it can be carried out without congressional approval made me nervous, because you don't know what we're going to end up with and what the secondary market investors are going to think about when all this takes place. And the smartest minds in the room there a couple days ago were saying nothing's going to happen this year, maybe next year, more likely 2027, because there's a lot of moving pieces and a lot of reps and warrants and securities that have been issued under conservatorship, and policies and procedures that have been written while under conservatorship, and their staffs have been cut. And so how is this going to be carried out? It's just not a wave of the wand. So, or an executive order, or just somebody spouting off on X. So it's a very complicated issue, and it impacts hundreds of millions of people. And so for the the market to be greeted with this last night, that it's under consideration, well, that's fine, but the the devil's in the details, and it's going to take, if you do it right, it's going to take years. And if done wrong, we could see rates go up, half, 1.5%, which we don't need. So we'll see what happens. And I've seen some chats pop up, some comments pop up, but it's not a good situation. And it doesn't just impact Fannie Mae and Freddie Mac, it impacts other areas of the business. It impacts FHA and VA and USDA and the entire non-QM segment of the industry, because non-QM bases much of what they do off of Fannie Mae and Freddie Mac and what's happening there, and the mortgage rates and treasury rates and so on. Treasury rates have already crept up because of the downgrading by Moody's, and I wrote about it today, the Sell America trade that we're seeing around out there. And I will finish my rant here, my tirade, coming back to the secondary marketing conference that was in Manhattan that I just came back from yesterday. If you walk through the halls and you talk to people and you go to the receptions and so forth, and you have your business meetings, it's fairly optimistic. But when you hear John Williams, who's the president of the New York Fed, talk, or Mike Fratantoni talk, the worry and the big concern is that the bond market is not behaving like you would think it has, or think it would, given some of the news that we've seen there. And what I mean by that, and what it's important for viewers and listeners to take away from, is that we used to have what was called a flight to quality. So if North Korea fired a missile at Japan, suddenly there would be a flight to quality. People around the world, money managers around the world, would buy treasury securities or US-based, US-backed securities. And so it would drive the price down. Drive the price up, and the rates would go down. And that was a typical scenario. In the last 2 or 3, 4 months, that has not happened. And what has come about is, no matter what the news is that hits the market, news in the past that you would think would drive that flight to quality isn't driving that flight to quality anymore. The U.S. has moved away from, in this administration, being a reserve currency. And so events and speeches and news that you would think would drive money into our bond market is not driving money into our bond market. Whether that money is going into Bitcoin or gold, nobody's quite sure yet, but gold has been creeping up. But anyway, the news isn't spooking the smarter minds in the room. The fact that the news is not causing a flight to quality, and the bond market is not acting as it has in the past, is causing a lot of concern out there. So rates have actually crept up, whereas some of the things that we are seeing should cause rates to go down, like the slowing of the economy and rising unemployment. you would think those would push rates down. Instead, rates have gone up. And so that's what has the focus of economists and investors and bond traders out there.
I've heard, I don't know if you've heard anything on this. I've heard from a couple people I respect that China is buying less treasuries now. And they're one of the biggest buyers of US treasuries, all the time, really. And that's part of it too. And there's a lot of fear. I mean, like the tariff strategy gone wrong scenario is one that, I think could cause people to be leery of fixed income. Um, but you're right, yeah, in what you're saying, that we have had a lot of things that have happened, these last couple of weeks that would normally push rates down, that kind of has them in the same spot. Steve, you want any part
Yeah.
of this, any part of this discussion? What are your thoughts?
One, I love that I was at a conference last week, and when they were talking about Pulte, they said he's on a national listening tour right now. He's not really saying anything. He's going everywhere and listening, and then boom, we get this week. So it's like, okay, that didn't necessarily go. And my take
Yeah.
on the thing is, and it's hard to say because the minute you say one thing, if somebody says, "Oh, that's pro-Trump," half the people say, "Oh my God, you're just a MAGA cultist." And if somebody says, "Oh, that's negative," "Oh my God, you got Trump derangement syndrome." It's like, which way do you go? But if you look at what he's doing, there's two things that have been pretty consistent. Everything's a negotiation. So he floats whatever it is that's out there and then says, okay, stir it up. And now that gives me leverage for a negotiation to where I want to go with it. So I don't think we know I mean, you said it, Rob. We don't know what the answer is, but I think it's part of that whole negotiation schematic. But I think he's getting a little more emboldened if you watch what he's been doing of when you were talking, do you need congressional approval? They're going full steam ahead. We don't need congressional approval. We don't need, we're going to do whatever we're going to do and then let the courts figure it out afterwards. But we've already moved it so far down the track that what's the court going to do about it? So that's sort of where I'm looking at how it's all shaken out.
Yeah, it's not a great situation because lenders are dealing with this. They're dealing with changes in the regulatory landscape, and we knew these things would happen. But in the first, 2 months, 3 months, 4 months, it's a difficult situation, and I think you want your president to succeed. You want the economy to be able to do well. You want to help your borrowers, and many lenders are finding it tough now. I will say this. I did see Carrie. I did see the PR folks in New York a little bit, and they are very busy. And it was nice to see. It's nice to see uh, companies out there like Depth who are succeeding and providing services for lenders and vendors and being able to help them. And Depth was right in the middle of it. So that was nice to see. There are some neat products out there. There are some products out there which, if you think about it, are really cutting edge. I know, for example, I had an ad today for a company that is using AI now to make hedge decisions and provide hedge advice. And I thought that was interesting. So there are some neat things going on, but through it all, it was nice to see people. It's always nice to see people. Steve, you're a real people person. Rich, you couldn't care less about people. I know that about you. But it was nice to see people interacting with people and people who hadn't seen each other for a long time and getting together and just talking about common problems. So overall, the conference was good. I'm very glad I went. I, uh, I got to spend time with my son Robbie, and that was enjoyable, and see him in action. He's got this vendor marketplace thing that he's rolling out. I shouldn't say vendor marketplace thing. He's rolling out a vendor marketplace for companies to post a page of information about themselves. So that's pretty cool. And so there are things that are going on that are neat. And through it all, 1,000 people just trying to help borrowers out there, and that's always nice to see.
And you got to see the naked cowboy as well. And not just Robbie, you got to spend time there too.
Well, somebody sent that to me yesterday. It was on, I guess it's on LinkedIn,
It's going
and
somewhat viral on LinkedIn right now, Rob. So you and the naked,
uh, I
and
I
you have a
was
couple
I
of
didn't
comments
even
in the chat about where's your guitar, but
Yeah.
Was
Robbie,
epic.
the quick-witted one, put a caption on there that was actually pretty funny. I don't know if the NBA appreciated the caption, but yeah, it's on LinkedIn. I wasn't even paying attention. I did see the naked cowboy, who's, a celebrity in his own right. But while we were walking, I was like, all right, where's our next meeting? I was more focused on, all right, where are we going now? Rather than so I saw him taking pictures. And I said, "What are you gonna do with those?" And he said, "Oh, don't worry." I'm like, all right. So anyway, fun times.
We'll see what happens. I haven't given up on Bill Pulte yet, but I do constantly find myself yearning for more when I hear him spit. It's like eating Chinese food. You're hungry like 15 minutes later. One of those types of things. But we'll see what happens. With the Trump stuff. I mean, again, I've been saying something. The person to listen to is Scott Bessent, who has repeatedly laid out what they will do, when and if they take the GSEs out of conservatorship, the focus being wholeheartedly on making sure not to disrupt the rate market, which I'm fully in favor of taking the GSEs out of conservatorship. But I wasn't expecting, the first Trump bomb on social this early. So we'll see what
Bill
happens.
Pulte was
But
talking about. So he was calling his group. He wasn't calling it the FHFA. He's already changing that name to Federal Housing. Federal Housing this, Federal Housing that. Great. I didn't have and you could ask questions at the end of his session. And I felt like raising my hand and saying, if you release Fannie Mae and Freddie Mac from conservatorship, if you privatize them, they aren't under federal housing anymore, Bill. They aren't federal. They're private companies,
it
you know?
reminded me of when I saw the federal housing thing. If you remember correctly, a couple of years ago, the Biden administration tried to change the name of the CFPB to the CFPB. Do you remember that? They did it for like a week and then they undid it. Just when you only in the mortgage industry, this shit.
But
It's
but isn't
really
Pulte
is
the head
really
of
unbelievable.
both Freddie and Fannie right now? Isn't he sitting as chairman of both of them right now?
I think so. He's
Yeah.
calling the shots. That's
Yeah.
fine,
So he's Freddie and Fannie. He's the head of them both. And so it's an interesting scenario we have.
Yeah.
And Steve,
Yeah.
you're traveling all over the country speaking to lenders, groups of LOs. I just start with you. I'd love to just hear your perspective on what you're hearing out there in your daily trials and tribulations across the great lands of America.
Well, Rob and I actually I talked to a mutual friend of Rob and mine yesterday, and she said the same thing that I said, by the way. Tracy says, hello, Rob. Um, the conversation is what I'm hearing is, hey, this is what it is. It's time to move forward. I think 2024 was a big time of let's wait and see, let's wait and see. And I think people are tired. Got a Big Mac attack, baby. Rob's going to
Sorry.
town.
Sorry.
Rob's like,
Cold,
Steve's
cold
talking,
front.
I won't get another word in. This is my chance to chew. So I think what happens is people just said, hey, 2024, let's wait and see, let's wait and see. And now it's like, it's 2025. We got to start doing something because we're not making any money. We're probably losing money right now. So we got to start swinging and making the moves. And this is what it's going to be. And I think that's what it is. I think people are now resolved to do something. They're done with the sit and the wait. What they're going to do, they're figuring that out. But that's what I'm watching happen.
What cracks me up is like people that, regardless of who's president, will like blame the president. Listen, my whole life, like the president has never affected anything I've done professionally ever. Like I'm gonna do my thing, and I feel like there is some of that out there, and but we'll see what happens. So what I love about these types of markets, these bear
Is he
markets that
freezing up, Rob,
we
or is
haven't
it
seen
me?
one.
Yeah, I know. It's Rich. Rich is freezing up here.
I
Am I? Oh, it's saying
no,
I'm.
but what I tell you who I'm finding is the most successful people out there right now from an origination standpoint. It's not the person who's sitting back and going, "Hey, what do you think he's going to do? What's going to happen if they move out of a conservatorship?" They're saying that stuff's all going to happen. I'm irrelevant in that conversation. I'm all about dealing with the customer, getting in front of them, making sure I can do the activities that are going to make a difference for me, and I'll let the C-suite figure that out, but I'm here to drive production and I'm not worried about the other stuff. That's who's moving forward. And some people are doing a tremendous amount of job. The other thing that I'm seeing is, and I love this comment of like, oh, look at that, 25% of the LOs have left the business. And I'm using the number there. I've heard so many different numbers that please don't check me on that one, but such a large amount of LOs are no longer in the business. What I'm seeing is who's leaving is the people who weren't doing any of the business anyway, right? We're back to the 80-20 rule, 20% to 80% of the business. Those who are in the low percent, they're the ones who are walking away from the business right now. So it's not that you're saying, oh, there's less competition, so we can get more of the pie. It's the people who are eating the pie to begin with are the ones that are still here, and that's who's still competing with one another.
Yep. And yeah, and you hit on a couple things that I think I was trying to say when I froze up. One is like whoever's president has never affected my business one iota. Like, and the people that are blaming whatever, it happens when either side's in the White House, blaming the White House politics for their problems. Like your problems are too far gone if that's where you're going. The other thing I like about these bear markets, though, is we see great companies pick up market share and thrive, through tough times. And I think we've seen a lot of that. And to your point, Steve, there's a lot of LOs out there killing it right now. I mean, we all know several of them, and you can thrive in any market. It is really, just adjusting and, adjusting your strategy and doing the things that, worrying about the things that you can control. So,
Rich, I've got a question for you. My turn to ask you a question. So it was over the last weekend or sometime when, I mean, you're sitting here talking about no president has directly impacted my business, which I would tend to agree with. So I forget when it was when President Trump came out saying that Walmart should not raise their prices because of the tariffs, that Walmart should eat the cost of the tariff. I have not heard, I'm sure I'm wrong here, but I don't recall a president directing a company on their P&L, on their profit margins like that. Do you? Do you
I
remember that?
can't remember. No, I can't remember that. But what I have heard is that a lot of these companies, out in front of the tariffs, we're accumulating inventory. We're doing things to kind of get out in front of it, and that, some of the impact that people fear of this tariff strategy is as far as how as it relates to inflation that we see in, the Fed's horrifically outdated numbers. That it could not, may not be as bad as people are thinking. But we'll see. That was a bold move by Trump. I know that, but again, if you're the CEO of Walmart, you have a big decision there. I mean, because they probably, if they were to hold prices the same, their company probably stands to benefit in a multitude of different ways. If they hold the line and bend the knee and kiss the pinky ring and do that. But it was a bold move by Trump. I will still say, regardless of how crazy and volatile at times this strategy seems, I prefer what's happening now to the Biden strategy of do nothing and just let the housing market die a slow death. So it's risky, but and there's certainly some potential consequences, but we'll see what happens. So
Yeah,
Well, I
throw a
mean,
little
that's
history in there.
that. Oh, go ahead, Steve.
Just a little presidential history, and I'm not saying that was necessarily a good thing, but I think that what Clinton did directly affect my business in the mortgage business. Not
what Clinton
necessarily in a
did,
good way, because I know what it led to. All of it, it was under him that all of a
because of
sudden we
what
were looking at. He was a push. We need a lot more home ownership, and all of a sudden, all the rules fell off of home ownership, and that just took off like that. But
Yeah, I would say, Rich, that if
oh,
interest
I thought it
rates
was
go
maybe
up,
the Monica.
no, Monica Lewinsky. No, let's
I thought
say
I was going to say I thought that Steve, the material from the Lewinsky thing was what changed his career for the better. That
no,
no.
that's not. No, 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 no. But I did speak at
Um,
a conference where she was a speaker, and I will say she was an excellent speaker.
hmm Yep.
good, good to hear. But I would say that the folks in mortgage banking that I know, and I know a few, I think that if rates go up because we are downgraded, or because we, go into we privatize Fannie Mae and Freddie Mac, and interest rate mortgage rates go up. If Donald Trump were to tell the correspondent investors and Fannie Mae and Freddie Mac, look, don't raise your rates because of tariff policy, or because the bond market has done whatever, I know exactly what Fannie Mae and Freddie Mac and AmeriHome and PennyMac and Kind Lending and others, Union Home, Fair. I know, I mean, they can't not raise their rates, for example. So for him to tell a private company, look, eat the tariff cost, I think that's bordering on something that we may not necessarily want to deal with in the future. So
Right. Yeah.
I like a free market. Walmart, let Walmart do what they want to do with their prices.
And they
Let Fannie Mae
can,
and Freddie Mac.
they can do. I mean, that's just Trump's thing. He's always out there throwing bombs. I mean, that's the way he's been his whole life. Like the people that take what he says like at face value, I mean, I just don't get it. He's going to be out there intentionally lying, embellishing. It's his style. I'm not saying it's right. I'm just saying that if you want the real, like if you're like somebody hears Trump's comments last night and thinks that they're going to rush the GSEs through this 4 month haphazard exit. Like that's never going to happen in a million years. It's listen to his policy people. He's going to try to set the direction and the tempo, but
The
so and again,
negotiation
it's
tactic. It's how he gets what he wants. He's negotiating it. He throws it up there, and everybody else is scrambling, and he says, "This is what I want to do." It's a negotiation tactic.
and with all this tariff stuff going on and all of this, like rates are no higher than they were during Biden. So, I mean, with all this in there, and I've heard people much smarter than me make the case that, it's primarily right now because of China buying less treasuries. And if that is indeed the case, then I don't know that for a fact, but then but again, that's part of the risk of the tariff strategy too, is, your biggest buyer of bonds, you're kind of, you're thumbing your nose at them a little bit. So,
So Steve,
but
Steve,
Yeah.
the speaking that you do around the country, what are you talking about? Are you talking about sales techniques? Are you talking about interest rates? Are you talking about, how to work with coworkers, how to help borrow? What is your standard message that and I've heard it several times over the years, and I enjoy it very much every year, every time I hear it. But what's the current speech like? What topics are you touching on?
I got two of them because one I just did last week. I was asked specifically to talk about leadership and how it's different in today's world. And we talked about leadership, and I thought that was a neat conversation to have. And the other one is called Why You? What differentiates you from the competition? Where do you, are you, why should I choose you to be my loan officer? Why should I choose to hire you? Why should I choose to work for you? We have to be able to have a really good reason to that question of why you in today's world, because you're no longer saying, well, you're with such and such a bank or such and such a lender. That's why I'm going there. I'm going after the individual, and the individual is what's winning right now. So it's about why you. And that's the message that's hitting hard right now.
Good.
and anybody that hasn't seen Steve speak is phenomenal. And
Well, thanks.
SteveRichman.com, is that the best? Is that the best
That's
place, Steve?
Rich
SteveRichman.com.
Man, Richman. We all need a goal, and that's mine.
And I can speak from personal experience. When I was running lending for the last lender I was at, Steve was at Genworth, and you were like and they weren't Genworth back. Was it still
Well,
GE?
I've gone from GE to Genworth to Enact, and now I'm on my own.
Now you're on your own. But I, I'd heard our mutual friend Shimmy Bones said, I had a
Love them.
sales meeting coming up. He's like, we've got this speaker that's unbelievable. And then, yeah, we had you in regularly.
Who?
And it's
Who?
really
Rich?
Pete
Shimmy
Shimrack.
Bones. He's
Jimmy Bones.
yeah, he's a
A
longtime
character.
veteran
Bones?
MI rep that Shimmy Bones. Yeah. But and no, just very entertaining, topical. keeps the audience engaged, which with LOs, it can be a challenge at times. So, but good stuff. And any advice, Steve, just for like, aspiring speakers or people who speak, like the keys to engaging with an audience like you do, and just having general success up on stage?
Well, the first thing is what we talked about here today. Stop worrying about, we came in, you gave me a list of 10 topics you thought we were going to talk about today. And when you go into an audience, stop worrying about the things that you want to talk about and worry about the things that are going on around you that your audience wants to talk about. So, I mean, we came in today, made a total, did a 180 and said, okay, I know where we're going in this direction, but guess what? Last night, we're now going in that Freddie Fannie conservatorship direction. So that's the first thing. Second thing is stop selling and start giving. I was at a conference last week and a guy got up, and I'll say guy because it was a guy, and he's like, let me tell you about my new products and let me tell you about the service. And I mean, the entire conference, everyone just went directly to their phone and nobody listened to a word that the guy said because he was talking about what? Not what they wanted to hear. And he wasn't giving them anything. He was talking about himself. So that's, I think, the most important. So that's, it's funny. You said to me, hey, so when you talk, let's talk about you, Steve. And what are you? I'm a professional. I'm a professional speaker. Let's go talk about conservatorship because that's what the people want to talk about. Always talk about your audience, not about what you want to talk about.
It is so true. That's such good general advice. I mean, I spend a lot of time on LinkedIn and coaching people on LinkedIn. I tell them the exact same thing. Like, if you need one piece of advice on LinkedIn, it's think nothing about yourself or what you're selling, and just how you can provide the most value possible to your audience. Essentially, the give a little bit more, give a little bit more, and then maybe ask, right? But such good advice. So, what's the one thing, Steve, that you think, just spending a lot of time around LOs and speaking to them, that every LO should be doing right now, but almost none of them do?
Well, I think the word is consistency. You just need to be consistent. You need to be consistent in your activities. You need to be consistent in your schedule. I know there's people, they wake up, they're like, well, maybe I'll do a video today. Oh, maybe I'll send out a couple emails. Maybe I'll do a couple phone calls. You look at the top producers every Monday, they do the same thing every Monday. They post a different video every single Tuesday, and this is the topic. And every Wednesday they take you got to have consistency, consistency, consistency. But the other thing I think the top performers do is consistency in measurement. So I go to a lot of companies, they're like, man, they're making me log all my stuff in the CRM. The top producer, they want to log their stuff in the CRM. They want to know where their business is coming from. They know exactly how many loans are in the pipeline, how many leads that they're getting, where those leads came from, how much this real estate agent did for them. They measure everything. And you talk to the people that aren't doing as well, and it's like they think they know what's going on. And they'll say, oh, how's it going? I'm doing around, I'm on target to do something like 30 loans. You talk to somebody who's doing it. I'm at 32 loans. I got 6 that are ready to commit within the next 2 weeks. I mean, they measure, they measure, they measure. And I think that's the big differentiator right now is measurement.
That's where I dropped the ball, Steve, obviously over the years is inconsistency. Inconsistency, my middle name.
Well, once you hit celebrity status, it allows you that flexibility, right? No, I only see what? The same exact every time. How consistent is the guy? Monday through Saturday, takes Sunday off, same form. Even when he's on vacation, maybe he has ghostwriters, who knows? Consistency, baby.
No, what I lack in intelligence, I make up for inconsistency.
Right. I was teasing when I said the other. You do. I mean, it's so obvious. And you always have the joke at the
Consistency.
end.
McDonald, you are consistent with your diet, that's for
But what
sure.
about McDonald's? What about McDonald's? You talk about
Very consistent.
consistency. The fries in California, probably just like the fries in Louisiana, probably just like the fries in Maine.
Yeah, very consistent product. So,
And they measure everything. You go to McDonald's, they know how long it's taking you to order, how long it takes to get the fries out. They measure how many people are going through, drive through versus in store. Measure it, baby. That's how you know what to work on, is measuring it.
Any good
Yeah.
like funny speaker stories, Steve, or like, other speakers you've shared the stage with that, impressed or disappointed you in great ways that come to mind?
Well, Rob Chrisman's a great speaker, so there you go. I'll throw him out there. Always enjoy sharing the stage with Rob. It, what I see, there's a push out there right now, and I actually just lost a gig about this, is are we looking for somebody who's practical and is going to help us do what we're doing? Or are they just a really good storyteller? We can't do anything with the information. I find that a lot with athletes. They'll get out there and they'll tell you, oh my God, here's a story. And you're like, that was fascinating. How's that going to help me grow my business? I have no idea, but that was just really cool to listen to. And for certain people, that's great. But I always look at, are you looking to hire somebody that you want to have a beer with or somebody that's going to help you grow your business? And I think that's a very important thing. I watched, I'll say it, I don't care. Rudy,
Yeah.
the movie Rudy?
Mhm.
I watched him as a speaker once, and man, did that guy have some great stories. And at the end, he just said, hey, if you want my autograph, $20, come on up. And he just sat there and he was standing in a pile of money because people were just throwing money at him to get the autograph. He didn't even put it in his pocket. He just keep sweeping it onto the floor to get to the next one. Boom, boom, boom. Frank Abagnale Jr. I've seen the guy speak 4 times, says the same thing every time from Catch Me If You Can. Fantastic stories. How's that going to help if we come out of conservatorship? I'm not exactly sure, but man, it's a great story.
Yeah. Good stuff.
Yeah. That's a great observation. It's true. David Cohn, I guess, who played for the Mets. Is that right, Rich?
Yeah. Yeah.
Pitcher.
Mhm.
He spoke at the National Secondary. I didn't go. I had a meeting. Steve, to your point, I mean, it's like, do I schedule a meeting or do I listen to David Cohn talk about, oh, let's talk about, this time I was called in on the tenth inning and the count was full, and can be very entertaining. And those athletes make a very good living telling those tales. So hats off to them. But if I'm dealing with a room full of loan officers, to your point, I want to tell them things that'll help them with their customers. So,
Because I was never in a baseball game in the ninth inning and I got called in for the World Series. So I don't have that story to tell, but does it even apply? No.
well, I could talk about the time I got a flat tire on the highway, but anyway, that aside,
Look,
it's
I always
probably
joke about, amen, God bless the military, but they get in and they say, you got to be 100% focused on everything you're doing. Well, every mortgage person I know is multi-focused because, they're trying to balance life and family. The reason they ship the military off to other countries is so that they are 100% focused on what they're not bringing their families with them when they go into battle. So it's a great story that they know how to hit the hierarchy, how to communicate. They're amazing what they do. But I'm like, hey, but if I know I have to be 100% focused, but if I don't pick my kid up from school, my wife's going to be really pissed at me. So I need to make sure that I'm doing what? Finding that balance.
Steve, any parts of the mortgage process currently that you think will be like unrecognizable 5 years from now? Any predictions of change from your crystal ball?
I think 100% of the business is going to be different 5 years from now. I said this at the conference last week. I said, right now, you have to take a schizophrenic approach to this business. You have to figure out how you can survive today, but then you have to figure out where do you want to be in 5 years. And those two things are totally different. So if you're saying I'm getting all involved in technology and AI and everything like that, that's not built for you to succeed today. That's built for you to succeed in 5 years. So you have to have part of you working on that. But today, what is right here in front of me that can drive it? And how do I make sure that I'm still here in 5 years when I can implement that? I think you need to take a very schizophrenic approach of here's where I am today and what I'm doing. And I'm going to spend some time to think about the future, but it's not getting implemented anytime soon.
And then like, you're natural and like you're like before you speak, do you like a ginseng guy? While you're on Adderall, like do you have you like with Rob, a little chocolate and some sugar before the show to get your juices flowing? Do you have a pre-speech routine that gets you all amped up?
I absolutely pregame, and my pregame is the exact opposite of most people. I have way too much energy, so I try and downplay everything so I don't explode up there on this stage. So I actually have to dial things back to be
Okay.
able to get in there and pregame. But I also say this, listen to the speaker or speakers before you. If you are going in and you have to make a presentation and you're number three, don't show up and you're 10 a.m. Don't show up at 9:59 a.m. and say, okay, I'm ready to go. Get
Mhm.
there early because the best way to you share the experience with the other speakers and then you can walk in and play off of that. You have a shared experience with the audience. They went through it, you went through it, and then you blend it into yours and it's seamless. And they go, he hasn't said that or she hasn't said that 100 times in the past. This is new and fresh for us. Listen to the
You
others.
know, Rich, one of the things I do during my presentations, I hand out chocolate bars and nylons because I figure if that worked for my dad's generation, going through France and Germany, it applies to today. Chocolate and nylons.
Well, both of you guys. I mean, like, you hear comedians say all the time, like, the nightmare for a comedian is when, like, the person before them, like, bombs horribly. You got, like, this angry crowd out there, So you're probably right cheering for the speaker in front of you in one of those scenarios because you want the audience happy and lathered up.
Well, isn't that the old Jerry Seinfeld joke?
Yeah,
Number one fear is public speaking. The number two is death, which means if you're giving a eulogy at a funeral, the guy in the box is happy that you're up there giving the eulogy and he doesn't have to, that he's in the box, right? I mean, that's the old Seinfeld
that's
joke.
right. Yeah, because he riffs about how it's so bad that it's worse than death. Yeah,
Right.
public. Oh, too funny. And what any trends on just topics that people want you to speak about, or any other observations from the field that you can take us home with here, Steve?
It goes back, it's the leadership and it's the differentiation. We're stuck in this commodity zone of waiting things to happen. So it's how are you going to break out and make yourself different from the competition? And that is what the main message has consistently been. How are you different? Because the company's trying to scale it and make it the same like McDonald's, but the individual is the one who's making the real difference.
I love it. And man, if you need a great speaker for your annual sales meeting, any
Oh,
kind of
you're so
event,
nice.
no, I'm being honest. Steve's not even paying us. He's not a sponsor. I just like, passing along great recommendations. And Steve does an incredible job speaking, funny, engaging. People love it at the end of the session and does a great job. And you can check him out at steverichman.com. And
Just
now
don't
you,
talk to him before he's about to go on.
I love when they go, "Man, you're not anything like I was expecting. You were like so mellow and quiet. And then you get up on stage. I'm like, that's the act, baby. Make it
Mhm.
happen.
Love it. Well, good stuff. And I want to thank everybody for spending part of your Thursday with us. If you're listening to the pod or watching on YouTube, join the live. We had a very nice, Steve pulled, it was about 160 live at one point. So, Steve will have our marketing people note that, and he'll probably bump up your next appearance on the show by a month or two. So,
If
good
you
work.
remember when we last spoke, it was right before the election. We did the election preview.
That's
And now
right.
we're talking about the new president and, well, not new, but what the
Yeah,
president's doing after that election. So
that's
we've
right.
been politically engaged.
Yeah, Steve's in the rarefied air of repeat guests here on the Big Picture. And again, if you need a great speaker, you can go to steverichman.com to find out all about Steve and how he entertains audiences. So good stuff, Rob. Thank you as always. Good seeing you. And
Thank you, Rich.
any good
Thank you, Depp.
any good Memorial
Happy
Day?
holiday weekend to everybody. Have
Yeah,
a
any
good
good
holiday
Memorial
weekend.
Day weekend plans for either of you guys?
Trying to do a lot of biking
Biking, Steve?
Barbecue and golf.
There you go. I got high school
simultaneously.
baseball. high school baseball playoffs and house catch-up stuff on my docket. But
Rich, when's the wiffle ball tournament that Steve and I want to enroll in?
mid-August, the world's largest wiffle ball tournament, World Series of Wiffleball.com. That is in mid-August. So
You have
Been working on
plastic
the
bats or
slide.
do you have wood bats?
plastic bats. So
Plastic bats.
excellent. Well, thanks again. And Steve, thank you very much for joining us this afternoon. And it was great to see you.
You guys are awesome. Thank you.
Thanks, guys.
All right.
Thanks,
Have a great
Deb.
rest of the weekend, holiday weekend, everyone. And thanks to our partners at Depth for supporting the show. And we'll see you next Thursday, everyone. Take care.
Yep.